Anyways,
I need a unicorn.
I
Ava would
turned
like
to my lovely husband to say goodnight. And honestly, let's be honest, some of my greatest thoughts and conversation ideas come at night. And I'm like, hi, he can't even talk to me. I'm like, he's like, peace out, go to bed. No, he literally said the other day, you have anything else you need to say? Because I'm going to put my mouth tape on. I'm like, well, who am I living with? Hi, friend. This is Annette.
This is Jared.
And welcome to our Happy Family podcast.
We're passionate about happy, healthy relationships.
And that only happens with happy, healthy people.
So join us each week as we discuss the ingredients of making your own happy family.
Thanks for joining us. Let's jump in. Hello, everybody. Welcome to this episode of the Happy Family podcast with me, Annette, and my amazing...
The queen herself.
And my amazing... Okay. And my amazing co-host, Jared.
The jester of the court.
The jokester. I'm going to tell you a little story today. And this is a fun one about a recent trip we took. And honestly, I can't remember where we were going. I was literally trying to think of this story. Oh, I think it's when we went to Mexico in January. We hadn't gone anywhere for like a long time. And it was Ava's first international trip, had to get a passport. It took forever. It was quite the process. But anyways, we went to Mexico, which was nice. And we're on the plane. And so it's funny because when we fly, Jared and I are probably one of the anomalies. I'd rather sit by myself.
Me too.
And be on an aisle than
Definitely.
All of us sit together, cute, and me be squished in the middle because Ava wants a window. And I used to love a window growing up. What did you like growing up?
I think always the aisle.
Really? I used to like the window, you look out, all that stuff. But as I got older and taller, and this might be TMI, but I literally feel like I have to pee all the time. And so window does not work as an adult. And so anyways, on this trip, I was in the middle seat. Ava was in the window. Jared's in the aisle. So I'm kind of feeling a little squished, not going to lie. And it wasn't a long trip, but I was entertaining Ava. Activities, all these things, right? So we're on the plane, we're going, I think we'd taken off, kind of doing our thing. And it's funny because when you're on a plane, it's almost like you zone in on different areas. And even though Jared is literally right next to me, it's like I hadn't really looked at you or paid attention to you for probably 20 minutes while I was doing stuff with Ava. And then I turned to look at Jared and I don't know, probably try to have a conversation. And I literally am like, what is happening? I look at him and he's like, okay, so if you want to see it, you can watch this episode on YouTube and actually see what I'm describing. But Jared is next to me and I kid you not, I turn over. I did know he was reading a book. He was reading a book the entire time after we took off. He has one hand over like one nostril. So he's got like one nair open and he's like doing this like this weird breathing and he has his eyes closed. So then I'm like, I'm sorry. I didn't know we were doing some weird form of breathing exercise or meditation while we're on the plane. Like Jared's not one to have a problem while flying. Like I'm like, is he nervous? What is he doing? And then he switches and puts the other hand on the opposite nose nair. And then like, and I'm like, I'm sorry. What is happening right now? And do you want to say? I'll give a little more detail, but
I'm straight
do you
up
want to like
high as a kite on this plane, having the time of my life. I'm probably floating at this point.
You're hilarious because of your breathing.
Absolutely.
So today we're going to talk about breathing and how it's so good for you, which is like, well, duh, obviously if you can't breathe,
or it's
you're
so bad
not alive.
for you. It just depends.
Yeah, whichever way. And while we were on this flight, Jared was reading a book specifically on breathing, right? Mm-hmm. Correct me if I'm wrong.
That is correct.
And I'm going to actually read some of what you were reading.
Oh, I was reading it and I was applying it.
It was fascinating. So, okay, it basically says that you can change your body's physiology depending on which nostril you breathe out of, which is pretty fascinating. So it says the right nostril is like the gas pedal to your body. So it is like your sympathetic nervous system, your fight or flight, like basically when something exciting or you need like that boost of energy, That's the right side,
And
right?
you can manipulate it by covering the
Covering
left.
the left and just breathe in the
Yep.
right. And apparently, okay. And
Same
then
time.
it's the opposite for the left side. So
That's
the
right.
left side's like your brakes. You're like slowing everything down. It's your parasympathetic nervous system where you relax. It can lower your blood pressure, all these things. So it's basically like, yeah, it's just crazy. It said that your left nostril breathing can actually shift the blood flow to the opposite side of like your prefrontal cortex, where you have like creativity and like all these things. So you can actually kind of like, if you're like about to go into a big, I don't know, what would it be, like a meeting? Do you need a jolt
brainstorming
or
meeting.
yeah? So if you need to go to a brainstorming meeting, or you need to be
Hijack
creative,
your body.
or you need to be something, breathe out of your left nostril, plug
Exactly.
the right. Anyways, this is what Jared was doing on the plane,
man.
and I was like,
I came up with the cure to
you-
cancer. I mean, there's no telling all the things I figured out.
but there has been a lot of studies on breathing, and I think we're big on health and being healthy. I think inspiring you to live a happier life, and I think breathing is so important. So anyways, you've got some thoughts on like how we breathe and all these things. We have a lot of thoughts, but you go for a little bit.
All right. So since I was told I had what did I have? I had leprosy in India. Oh, this light's being goofy with me.
Jared went to India years ago and got really sick. Like he came back and was really sick.
Yeah, they thought I had leprosy. It was pretty crazy. So I became pretty much obsessed with diet.
Yeah.
Diet. And yet growing up, I was probably obsessed with exercise.
Mm-hmm.
And those are pretty much the only two things I was obsessed with. And then I read this book it's called Breath by James Nestor, about breathing. And my mind was blown.
Obviously.
I was like, where have I been?
It was blown on the airplane.
On the airplane. Where have I been? Like, I've been so serious about these other things, but man, breathing is so important. This guy in this book, I mean, he touched on so many different awesome things. He talks about these monks who, with their breathing in the Arctic freezing cold weather, can melt snow around them. How you can manipulate the body temperature, change biorhythms in the body. So many different things. I think we're going to talk about a few, but one of the things that's pretty fascinating is he just really hones in on the downfall of society was when we started breathing out of our mouths. And a lot of us every night choke on ourselves.
With sleep apnea.
And snoring. And just this huge issue of we're breathing through our mouths rather than our nose. So he does this experiment in a lab with all the researchers around, blocks his nose for like 2 or 3 weeks, only breathing through his mouth. Everything, exercise, eating, sleeping. His blood pressure goes up. His cortisol levels go up. Like
you
headaches.
can enlarge your heart. Like you can have actual, like really big issues.
Well, he is bad off.
Wow.
And then they said, now let's reverse it. Takes the things out. And at night, they start taping their mouths. And blood pressure goes down. I think BMI goes down. Like unbelievable
Can I say
results.
something else about that real quick?
Please.
Jared also started taping his mouth at night. It's like I live with an experiment. So I turned the other night, like, good night, honey. Like whatever. And Jared has this, of all things, it's like, it looks like black, it's
called hostage tape.
It looks like black lips, like actual, like dark charcoal black shape of lips sticker that you stick on your mouth so that you don't open your mouth.
It's a sticker.
It is a sticker. It's strong enough to hold your lips shut.
We wouldn't want to call it tape. It's a sticker.
Anyways,
I need a unicorn.
I turned to my lovely husband to say goodnight. And honestly, let's be honest, some of my greatest thoughts and conversation ideas come at night. And I'm like, hi, he can't even talk to me. I'm like, he's like, peace out, go to bed. No, he literally said the other day, do you have anything else you need to say? Because I'm going to put my mouth tape on. I'm like, well, who am I living with? What is this?
Mad scientist.
But I was going to say, I worked as a nurse for 18 years in the hospital. And obviously, I mean, I feel like this is like a given, but your breathing is the most important thing. You don't breathe, you die. We had people on ventilators, or we were artificially breathing for them. There's just so many issues with breathing. And it's like, it's so important. there's so many like physiological things about if your body, if you're like, you're breathing, if you're too alkaline, you're too acidic. There's like all these things with breath that are just fascinating. And I was going to say, I think mouth breathing, do you think we've had a lot of issues in society with, I think we have so many like allergies, food allergies, environmental allergies, all these things where people have like stuffy noses and do all these things. And I feel like because other things are maybe unhealthy as well, and we're all stuffy, and then you breathe through your mouth because it's another way to breathe. So it's like all kind of goes together. I don't know. Anyways, carry on.
All right, here we go. Get into the science. So the argument is, when did this all really start to get bad? And there's a pretty good argument. When we started eating predominantly soft and processed food, we stopped chewing our food like we used to need to. So, when we go look at our animals, they're chewing on grass. It's
All the time.
chew. For us, it's like,
Yeah.
just get it down. So basically, when we started eating soft and increasingly processed food, which don't require chewing, we weaken the muscles all around how we breathe. And then the argument's made that chewing releases stem cells, increases bone density,
Wow.
and makes us look younger. And some studies even show that babies show much lower incidence of crooked teeth and snoring for children who were breastfed longer over those who were bottle fed.
Is that because they're using their muscle? Or?
Yeah, it's all about
Interesting.
using the muscles.
Wow.
Mouth breathing changes the physiological makeup of the body, the mouth, the teeth, and it actually changes our airways and the muscles and the makeup around them, all leading to poorer health.
Wow.
So this idea of taping your mouth is almost forcing yourself to not breathe through your mouth and to try and breathe through your nose so that you strengthen those muscles. Surprisingly, how much in the daytime, even when we're awake, you can catch yourself. I remember when I was trying to do this in Mexico, working out. I'm like, okay, keep my mouth shut. Just breathe through my nose.
Literally.
You can literally feel like you're hyperventilating.
Sure.
And then it's like, oh, now I got more oxygen and I know what to do. It's like,
breathing through your nose.
very
The other day,
interesting.
literally, I'm working out and I'm thinking about this and I'm like, I like shut my mouth. I'm like trying to take a deep breath. I'm like, oh, breathe through your nose. Breathe through your nose. It's like, anyways, but yeah, it's a big deal.
okay, then this other thing, this guy named George Catlin spends his life studying over 50 Native American tribes. He writes this book called The Breath of Life, published in 1862. He basically goes to all these tribes and he finds that all these tribes and the kids and the adults and the grandparents, everyone has perfect teeth.
Interesting.
They have few to no health issues. And he basically argues it was this relentless teaching to even their babies of the great secret of life, which is how to breathe through your nose. They thought that, the argument goes on, they believed that air through the nose was clean and helpful, whereas through the mouth, it was dirty and harmful. And literally, he closes his book with, shut your mouth.
Wow.
Like, here's the answer for you. So pretty fascinating on, he even argues that this idea that for a lot of us, cavities are more from mouth breathing than sugar and hygiene and all this stuff.
Really?
Pretty interesting
That's
stuff.
wild. I think it's very cool. Like, it makes sense. Meaning, our nose that's where you breathe. It makes sense. That's what it's supposed to be. And for whatever reason, we're not doing that. But it makes sense as to why you're supposed to breathe through your nose.
Right.
That's what goes directly to your lungs. Like your mouth goes to your esophagus. Like it doesn't. Anyways. Yeah.
Yeah. Pretty interesting.
Yeah. I like that. As we were talking about, I think a few weeks ago, we talked about sleep and we talked about gardening. And I think with gardening, we talked about how that's one of the common denominators in these people that live the longest.
That's right.
Right. And there was a study, it said here, it was a 70-year longitudinal study that lung capacity was the greatest indicator of longevity.
That's amazing.
Which that is amazing. And I was talking to your sister the other day. I shared that I'm training for a triathlon, part of a triathlon. I'm doing the bike portion of a triathlon. And she's doing the swimming portion. And she said that she was swimming the other day and that she felt like she could have kept swimming, but she was just so out of breath. It was just so hard to take a deep breath, especially through your nose, because you have water. It's just like that whole process, And I told her, I was like, maybe you should work on your lung capacity. When I worked at the hospital, they used to give us these little things called an incentive spirometer. And you've probably seen them. If you've ever been to a hospital or seen anyone, they set it there and it's like a little contraption with a little tube and you suck in air super slow and it like lifts this little thing. And that's supposed to like train your lungs. And you'd be surprised how much lung capacity we don't have. And the people that have really great lung capacity, you're supposed to like be able to breathe like way in and expand those lungs. I just thought that was so cool related to longevity, which means probably they've been breathing correctly for most of their life, I would think. And their lung capacity is better.
Yeah. Well, I mean, he has another book about these free divers and how long they can learn to hold their breath.
Really?
And I think it was, I forgot which Avatar is the latest. Is it 2, Avatar?
I don't even know. I don't know. Yeah.
That Kate Winslet had to learn to like hold her
actress.
breath for like 12 minutes.
What?
Like something insane. 9 or 12 minutes. I mean, out of this world, like,
Does
what
anyone
is
feel
happening?
like, I'm sorry, but I feel like just because we're talking about breathing, I've breathed abnormally the entire time we've been recording this. I feel like I'm like, am I breathing through my nose or my mouth? But with this, it's funny thinking about this whole thing that breathing and longevity, it's like, that's one of those things that's free
Yeah,
for everyone.
right.
Like you can practice breathing and go outside. That's why I love gardening or doing anything outside because you're getting fresh air. But it's like they're not making any commercials on television about go outside and just breathe the fresh air. There's like no money.
No money for that.
There's no money in the fresh air. But yeah. Anyways, okay. So to breathe properly, the thought is you breathe in slowly through your nose, which is negative pressure, which draws blood into the heart. And then when you exhale, the blood shoots back out of the heart into the lungs full of oxygen and then goes out to everything.
Yeah, I think this was one of the things that was pretty shocking. It talks about it's not so much the oxygen in your body that's beneficial, it's the CO2.
Mm.
He talks about a lot of people think, well, just as much as you can get in. And it's like, no, it's as slow as you can get it in and almost arguably slow as you can get it out. This is how you get the most out of breathing. And then there's obviously different ways to breathe, but keep going.
Yeah. Well, it's interesting because when I was little, for a short period of time, I don't know how old I was. I was maybe 10 or 11. This is a fun fact. I took voice lessons and the lady that was my vocal coach, do you know this? She was a lady that was good friends with Julie Andrews, Sound of Music girl. The hills are alive, that one. And she always bragged, this lady was in her 60s when I knew her, but that she beat Julie Andrews in all these music competitions. So she knew how to sing properly. Anyways, she was fun. But she would teach me how to breathe to sing. And it's the opposite of what you think. Because normally I think when you take a deep breath, since you're inhaling through your nose, it's almost like you want to like suck everything in, like just right. But you're actually supposed to relax all your stomach muscles out, and you're supposed to stick your stomach out when you take a deep breath. So it's almost like you're filling like in there, which is the opposite. But when you are singing a lot, if you don't breathe that way, you will run out of air and you won't be able to sing. Isn't that weird?
Yeah, that's awesome.
It's the opposite of what we normally I guess think. But yeah, breathing slow is not a bad thing. You only need to breathe like 6 to 8 times a minute. And I think sometimes maybe we're doing a lot more than that.
Oh yeah, it's like
right.
They make the argument, just like we're a culture of overeaters, we have become a culture of overbreathers. And I remember on the plane, so it was like, they were talking about all these ancient religions and spiritual practices. They'd all kind of average around 5.5 seconds per breath in, 5.5 seconds out.
Which is a lot. Should we practice that right now? Hold on.
Yeah, but hold on.
Okay, go.
Before we do, I just want to say that as I got going with it, it's pretty amazing how you can build up tolerance. Like I was getting in 1.5 to 2 breaths a minute. So intake, out. Intake. I would often, before I was fully exhaled on the second one, a minute had gone up. I'm like, this is crazy. Obviously, it was after doing all those voodoo type breathing exercises that I'd been doing next to you. But
it's maybe a little,
amazing.
like too little breathing.
Yeah, sure.
It's like funny. Being a nurse, I'm like, oh, if somebody was breathing 2 times a minute, you would pretty much be on death's door. But if you're healthy, it's probably better.
Yeah.
But hold on. I thought it'd be fun if you're listening. We're all going to take in a deep breath over 5 seconds. You want to count it out?
I'll count it out.
Okay, ready?
I can't count and do this 2 things at once.
Okay,
So
ready?
tell me when you're ready.
Okay, go. Then let it out.
Oh.
That was 5.
Yeah, you're supposed to go
But
out.
you were going to say 1, 2 out loud, so I knew what I was doing.
Sorry, you see my fingers
But people
here?
can't hear your fingers.
Oh, that's right.
There's people listening.
I'm sorry. I'm only talking to you. I forget
I'm like
there's
staring
we're
at him.
recording
I'm
this thing.
staring at him the whole time, and Jared's looking at me like 1, 2. I'm like, but nobody can hear you say. Anyways, okay, you get the
The
point.
goal
that was
is slower the better. So
slow breaths. Yeah. In slow and then out.
and out.
And always in through your nose, out through your in through your nose, out through your mouth. Okay.
Well-
Anyways, or out through your nose.
Yeah, it's interesting. There's different arguments, schools about that, but I think as you start to try this, you'll realize, oh, I got to go way slower because it's like,
Yeah. Then that's it. Yeah.
nope, that's like 3 seconds in total.
Yeah. I think when you
Slow it all down.
when you breathe slower as well is also when you increase that lung capacity more
That's
because you're expanding slow and you're not just like quickly,
Well,
doing stuff.
one of the things I thought was probably the best visual was they said like the ninjas used to put a feather under their nose.
Oh yeah.
And you had to breathe so slow that you could not
and
move
out.
the feather
In and
in or out. And once you were doing this is where you were supposed to be. And like that visual never,
Wow.
I've never lost that. I'm like, wow, that is it. So,
And I feel like that would feel like you're not breathing basically.
but it's silent, slow. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
All the benefits. So,
Yeah,
okay.
that's
My
cool.
turn.
Yeah, you had stuff on.
All right. So one of the most fascinating things I learned as I was going down this rabbit hole of breathing. So there's a pretty famous guy, Wim Hof, he's all into the cold plunges and breathing and how you can kind of mind over matter kind of deal.
Mm-hmm.
Interesting stuff he's got. The ones are where you're melting the snow and the Himalayas and all that. I think they call that tumo breathing. But the one that the whole rabbit hole that got me most interested was ancient yoga. So most yoga today is like the cow, the cat, it's these different positions and you're supposed to be breathing correctly. And some call it empty mind meditation, like empty your thoughts, empty your mind. So, very Eastern belief system and all that stuff. But what I started to learn was they said the ancient yoga was just breathing. There were no poses, none of the like religious elements. Like you saw it in a lot of different cultures that breathing was a practice. And it was slow, long breathing sessions in and out. That I would tell you, it's like, and I think they argued this in that book. It argued that like Pilates got mixed into the yoga and then it was movement. But it's like, as you're stretching around this way, you're not going to get maximum breaths as you are sitting on the floor and just relaxed in a good posture and breathing. Anyway, so for me, I appreciated
like
that.
Mixed it in with other stuff, I guess now.
Yeah, which,
made it a
maybe
little
for
more woo-woo.
efficiencies or what have you. But anyway, I think for me, it like showed me like, okay, yeah, this is something that we've lost and forgotten, that humanity long ago had figured out, that breathing and slowing down to breathe, because man, all the benefits like lowering your blood pressure and lowering your cortisol levels and all these things that you can literally, hold the nasal cycle stuff, manipulating your body to calm it down rather than turning to drugs and all the different things we do today to just get the body in a peaceful state. It was encouraging to me, like to learn about what they called, basically I call it ancient yoga before all the others.
Or it got more woo-woo, maybe.
Yeah, it's a little more of a religious exercise today, I think, in most people's minds.
Mm-hmm. I think it's cool how a lot of the things that can be good for us are just easy to access. It doesn't need to be like this complicated, you know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
And I feel like in this whole realm of breathing, I don't know if we've really said it, but the best I think is outside, breathing fresh air. If you've ever gone out after a rain, it's like there's like negative ions in the air, and it's like the best kind of
it's amazing.
Fresh, clean air. You feel like you're alive just like a little bit more. And one of my favorites is always like if you're ever at the beach or on a boat in the water and you have like that wind and you just feel like you're just breathing like, oh man, like this is so good. But it's like not, doesn't, you don't need to be charged for
No,
breathing
it's free.
outside, right? So do things more maybe outside that can lead you to better breathing. And I
Yeah.
feel like, God made us with the breath of life, which is, that's where we're made to do that.
Yeah. It's pretty cool lately. I'm reading a lot there's a lot of gadgets and gizmos, and you can go spend 100 grand on all this equipment and things. But if you get outside in the sunshine, if you sleep well through the night, if you learn to breathe, if you learn to walk, like you can live a long, healthy, happy life with things that are free and do not cost you money.
Which
That's
is
awesome.
amazing. It's like the opposite of what society tells you now,
That's right.
right? Like you need like all these things. You really don't.
Mm-hmm.
Just get yourself outside, friends.
I think I said gadgets and gizmos. I don't really know what that means. I think it's gadgets and
That makes me
gizmos.
think gadgets and gizmos. I don't know. I just went along with your
Thanks for not making
as I
me
went
feel
along
dumb.
with your weird breathing on the airplane, where I was like hoping no one was watching. It's like that time where you're just like when the lights are kind of dim. So I'm like, oh, good. Hopefully
not
nobody's
married to
watching
him.
us right now because Jared is doing some strange. I'm like, don't pass out on me. Like the whole time I'm thinking, don't do something weird where then we're gonna have to call.
Exactly
alert,
right.
help,
Exactly
help.
right.
But anyways,
Hold on, before you wrap us up, I'm
Yeah.
gonna give a shameless plug.
oh yeah,
If you are passionate about health, I've got a newsletter now called One Up.
yeah.
We'll link to it in the notes here of this podcast. It's a free
Right.
once a week email on a new principle of health to help you live longer, stronger, happier, healthier.
We're passionate about that. So if
Great to
you've
see
got
people
thoughts,
signing up. And
Yeah.
Thank
and
you.
let us know. Or if you have questions on any of these
Mhm.
things. Jared's done a lot of research, so it's cool. So thank you for being here today with me, co-host Jared.
Woosah.
We'll go take some deep breaths outside at the end of this. But
Deal.
thank you for listening, for being a part of our happy family, and we will be back next week.